Ben, coming round the bend is BoogeyMan Ben. Is BoogeyMan Ben.
Greetings, my fellow Fright Fiends, and thanks so much for dropping by the Horror Zone channel. I hope everyone's doing well. Today's video is going to be celebrating the 40th anniversary of 1982's George A. Romero classic, collaboration with Stephen King. Of course, I'm talking about the film Creepshow. The film's ensemble cast includes Hal Holbrook, Adrienne Barbeau, Fritz Weaver, Leslie Nielsen, Carrie Nye, E.G. Marshall, and Vivica Linfords. Creepshow consists of 5 short stories: Father's Day, The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill, based on the King short story Weeds, Something That Tied You Over, The Crate, and They're Creeping Up on You. 2 of these stories were adapted from King's short stories, with the film bookended by a prologue and epilogue scenes featuring a young boy named Billy, played by King's son Joe, who was punished by his abusive father for reading horror comics. Creepshow is a homage to the EC horror comics of the 1950s, such as Tales from the Crypt, The Vault of Horror, and The Haunt of Fear. In order for the film to give viewers a comic book feel, Romero hired longtime effects specialist Tom Savini to replicate comic-like effects. Now, Creepshow will always have a very special place in my heart. When I started thinking about doing this little tribute to the film, I rewatched it and just thought about the experience of growing up with this film. I was 8 years old when Creepshow came out. In fact, it was the 3rd horror film I saw in the movie theater. First one being The Funhouse, Tobe Hooper's The Funhouse. Second one being An American Werewolf in London, directed by John Landis. Both of those came out in 1981. Then in 1982, I went and saw this. I believe it was opening weekend. Again, I was 8 years old, but I do remember it was right when it came out, and my father actually took me to see it. And the summer prior, my mom had bought me the Creepshow comic book. That, of course, had the amazing art by Bernie Wrightstrom and the cover art by Jack Kamen. This is my original copy of that, and as you can see, it has masking tape on the end of it because the spine is completely gone. This book was something that I carried around with me the entire summer of 1982. It was actually also the first time I ever saw what Stephen King looked like. Now, at this point, Salem's Lot was becoming a big part of my life. I had become a fan of Salem's Lot. I had started rewatching it. This was around the time that it had been recorded off of cable TV for me at my dad's house. And I would rewatch it like every time I was at my father's house when I would stay there on weekends. And I never knew what Stephen King looked like. And I remember when this came out, the reason why that I was interested in this, and my mom bought this for me at B. Dalton's bookstore at Hilltop Mall. My mom told me, oh, this is the guy that wrote Salem's Lot. So, of course, this became, a book that I treasured. And my grandmother's very religious in the fact that in this book they say things like the Lord's name in vain, they say Christ, they say Lord, they say things like that. They said some other coarse things, but I remember those things really bothered her, and it really bothered her that my mom bought me this. And as you can see, it was really well loved. In fact, I even wrote my name in it. That's when I went by Benji. So it say Benji Ottaviano, so that is my 8-year-old writing or printing. And if memory serves, I did take this in the theater with me when my dad took me to see it. My dad and my stepmom at the time, Janie, both took me to see this film. And in this book, the stories go Father's Day, Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill, The Crate, Something That Tied You Over, and Creeping Up on You. And then when I watched the movie, of course, it has the wraparound at the beginning with Tom Atkins playing Billy's father. And then, of course, Billy is played by Stephen King's son, Joe Hill. But then it leads into the stories. And I remember, even as a kid, going, wait a minute. And I remember, because in the movie, after Jordy Verrill, it's Something That Tied You Over, and then The Crate. So I remember that standing out to me, going, oh wait, they switched it, they changed things up. And I was like going, what's weird, why did they do that? But I loved cartoons. I loved monster cartoons like Scooby-Doo and things like that. So the opening animation with the creep becoming animated outside of Billy's window. And then, of course, the whole opening title sequence, and then the little animated spots in between the various live-action segments. I just was in love with this film. It didn't, scare me. It was, exciting because it was like a magic show watching all these amazing effects happen. This was kind of what put me over of really loving special makeup effects. And in 1985, and I showcased this in a video I did a number of years ago. I'm going to say this is probably in 2014 I did this video. This is a book that my mom bought me in 1985. Actually, she wrote into it right here. And it just says, to Ben, for all of your good efforts in school. Love, Mom. So she got me this and gave it to me on the 28th of February in 1985. I was in 5th grade at the time, and I was doing pretty good in school. I'd gotten my grades better, and she had talked to me about this book that she had seen. My mom worked at UC Berkeley, and there was lots of cool bookstores around there. And I think she got this at Cody's Books, which is long gone. But this goes into all the makeup effects that Tom Savini worked on, from The Prowler to The Burning to Friday the 13th, Dawn of the Dead, and as well as Creepshow. For me, it's always been a magic show. And this showed me how they did some of that magic. And to go back and look at, movies like Martin, where they did, these crazy effects, or like I said, Dawn of the Dead, this amazing imagery and, shocking effects. And then getting into like Maniac or The Burning. I've always been just in awe of what Savini was able to do. And then of course we get to Creepshow, and I would study these pages forever and just look at the amazing work he was able to do. And then like the construction of Fluffy, like how did he create that creature? What was that creature? That creature was supposed to be a Tasmanian devil. And, seeing some of the early drawings of Fluffy and how Fluffy was supposed to look. It's a fantastic book. I don't know if you can find this anymore, but one of my prized items from my youth. My favorite segments in the movie have always been Father's Day and the crate being my absolute favorite. My favorite creature in the movie is Fluffy, and he kills Charlie Garris. I remember I was blown away when Fluffy rips the whole side of Charlie's face off. I just remember seeing that as a kid and just going, oh my God, his ear and everything was gone. And then he pushes him against the wall and scratches down his face. And of course, something to tide you over. Now, I was familiar with Leslie Nielsen because I was a huge fan of the movie Airplane. And, it's creepy. Again, it's just the atmosphere and the tension in that episode. I think that's got such a mean-spiritedness to it. And I was always scared of drowning. And that whole idea of being buried up to your neck in sand. And I remember the image of Ted Danson's character, Harry, being underwater because the tide keeps coming in, and it's getting more severe, and at the point where he's submerged completely underwater, and just seeing that play out on screen, I remember that was an image that was just embedded into I just remember I was so fascinated by that. And then of course they're creeping up on you with E.G. Marshall. I don't like bugs. I really don't. It's like, and I think a lot of that had to do with this episode of this story in Creepshow. I can't stand bugs. And up until I was probably about 29 or 30, I had never seen a roach before. First time I saw a roach was when my wife and I moved into our first little apartment we were living in, and I saw one in our laundry room. And immediately thought about this episode of Creepshow. And just the whole thing about the cockroaches in his apartment. I mean, he's a despicable man. Hobson Pratt is a horrible person. But that last scene where he's in that room and he thinks he's safe, and he pulls the sheets back from the bed and they're just all there. And that final shot of them all coming out of him, that they've all gone inside of him and just break out of his head and his throat and everything. It's just like, it's so well done. It still blows me away. The film just has become, it's something that really made me a fan of, horror it wasn't the cool thing to like. And I've said that before in videos. It's cool now to like horror. You look on YouTube, there's hundreds and thousands of people talking about horror movies. But growing up in the 80s, especially in the early 80s, this wasn't something you really talked about as a kid. You weren't supposed to be watching this stuff, much like the EC Comics that, this is sort of a tribute to EC Comics. And, now we have real Creepshow comics. This is a Creepshow comic that just came out. It's been put out by Image. Of course, the imagery is from, the Creepshow television series, which is on Shudder. But as a kid, this is all I wanted. I didn't know anything about EC Comics before Creepshow. I was collecting the Incredible Hulk and things like that. But to actually have a real Creepshow comic in my hands at almost 50 years old, I'm a little kid again. The other amazing thing that I think makes Creepshow such an amazing piece of work, music by John Harrison. John Harrison's music is indelible to this film. Everything about it, I love that there's different pieces for each one of the 5 segments, but they all feel cohesive. The entire score is just amazing. It's crazy, to think that, at 8 years old, that was the film that kind of made me even a bigger fan of monsters and horror movies. And like I said, it was kind of that one that I started realizing how cool it was, these effects makers and what they were able to do, and how they were able to tell a story. And I think a lot of it has to do with me being a fan of comic books too, and that it has that for me, it's like, there's so many movies now that are comic book movies now, and when you think comic book movie, you think superhero movie. For me, the greatest comic book movie of all time will always be Creepshow. It just has everything I love about comic books. It has a comic book feel, the panels and the color tones and just everything about it. It's a comic book. And I love this film 1000%. It never gets old for me. I have to say that it is my second favorite Stephen King film after, of course, The Almighty Salem's Lot. I'm grateful for everybody that put their hard work into it. The cast members that we have lost, like Hal Holbrook, Fritz Weaver, E.G. Marshall, Vivica Lenfers, and of course the amazing George A. Romero. These people are all gone. And but this legacy of this film will live on, and I think this film will be this film will continue to grow in popularity for many, many years to come. So just wanted to thank everyone for taking the time to watch this, paying tribute to the amazing film Creepshow. Let me know what your thoughts are on the film. Let me know if you grew up with it, or if you weren't around when it came out. I'm an old man. I'm almost 49 years old, so I was a real young kid when this movie came out, and I'm grateful to have had it pretty much throughout my entire life. It's been very important to me. There's no comic book film that's currently coming out, no matter how many special effects they have, that can compete with the amazing Creepshow. So thank you everyone for watching. Also, I am going to keep my Creepshow contest going for a couple days after this video. And I'm probably going to announce the winner of the contest this weekend. I'm thinking about doing it on Sunday. That'll be Sunday the 13th. I will post a video announcing the winner. But I want to thank everyone for participating, and I want to thank everyone for all the support. And yeah, thanks so much for dropping by, and I will talk to you again real soon. Take it easy. Stay scared as always. Peace. Fellow Fright Fiends, just want to say thank you again for supporting BoogeyMan Ben's Horror Zone. If you're brand new to the channel and you haven't yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the bell notification so you're updated every time I drop a new video. I typically do this once or twice a week with new content. I've been doing this for over 11 years, and the horror genre is a passion of mine, and it really means a lot to me that I can share that passion with all of you guys. Thanks so much again for the support, and I'll talk to you again later. Take it easy. Stay scared as always.